Betty.
Hello, Celia. What's up?
Well, I just thought we would have a little story time.
Like how? What kind of story?
Like you were canceled.
That's right, I was. Indeed,
Now,
I
this
was.
happened-
I am in that club.
Yes, you are in that club. You have that story. So many people have that story. And I thought tonight we would recount yours. Now,
Well,
this
you
happened.
insist.
Yeah. Well, I do insist. I insist. So this happened actually a couple of years ago in July 2020, but the story is fresh. The story could have happened yesterday. The story it's happening again in one iteration after another after another. And you had
the story just keeps getting worse and worse and more
Oh
extreme.
yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yours, and now interestingly, yours has a sort of confluence of education and entertainment. Just the worst of all possible worlds.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, those are the two worlds that get canceled at the drop of a hat.
Right. So now I think you did something interesting. You went ahead and posted something on Medium about your cancellation. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and read it, and we'll just stop every here and there to, chat. Now, okay, so it's your letter to the Board of Trustees, and we'll find out. Oh, it's the Laguna College of Art and Design, and this is in SoCal, Southern California, just a little south of LA.
In a beautiful little beach town.
Beautiful little beach town. Laguna Beach is insanely beautiful.
It's insanely beautiful, and it is historically known for, the beautiful art, and, the artists that painted there and lived there. It is an arty community. It still is. I mean, it started out as an arty community, and it still is.
In fact, I think Laguna Beach is the place where Rick Perry was giving a speech when he was, threatening to lure California businesses away to Texas, and he was standing in front of this sunset with this insanely beautiful beach behind him, and he said something like, "You've got to be a massive loser to have people moving away from this and coming to my state." Anyway,
Absolutely.
but so we actually have a clever graphic here for your letter, and it's basically the title: How Laguna College of Art and Design is Dealing with Its Racism. And we have here a human being standing on a chair in utter terror of a mouse.
Yep. Yes, and because that is exactly what the school became, an entire human being standing on a chair, this giant creature, 100 times the size of its pest. And
Pest,
just in utter fear of it.
Yes, we're going to deal with some cowardice. Now, also, you were kind of a get for this college. You were on the staff, weren't you? You weren't on faculty. This was something that you were doing as a side project. I mean, you didn't really need the money, but it was something you enjoyed doing. You enjoyed teaching. You've taught before, and
I was an adjunct professor.
An adjunct.
I was an adjunct professor. I wasn't staff. No, I was just an adjunct professor.
Okay.
And it was something that I was doing more for fun than anything. I did have to move a lot of other stuff out of the way to make room for the 2 days a week that I was teaching there. And but I did it, and I enjoyed it. But it was something of an.
This
effort.
wasn't your livelihood. It wasn't your
It wasn't my livelihood. It was not my livelihood. No, it was basically gas money. Mad money. Let's call it mad money.
Okay, but nevertheless, you were something of a get for this institution because you have a very impressive IMDb page. You are a person who, I mean, really, your credits in the industry as a painter, as an artist, as a director, made you it probably put you in the top tier of the teachers at this school.
They wanted me, and I tell you, another reason that they did want me was because I'm a woman, and which should have been something of a tip off for me, because they wanted to check off some diversity boxes. So I helped them do that. But my credits, they kind of speak for themselves, and I did okay for myself, and I did good for the students. I think they gave me very, very high marks. I got very good marks from the teacher or from the students.
I've also heard that every time I talk to you, you're turning down work from someone, and it's because you have a very good reputation in the industry. I mean, you are turning down projects every time I talk to you that I know that most people in the industry would kill for.
I've said no for a couple of years now, and at this point, they've pretty much gotten it through their heads that I am not interested, especially in studio work. I have one main client that I work for. I love him. I love the project, and that is taking all my time anyway. So, and then I have one other client that I do work for. At the drop of a hat, I will drop anything and work for this guy. He's wonderful, and his projects are short and really unique, and it's just super fun. Anyway, so I just have those two clients now in my life, and I'm when these ones are finished, then I will continue working on my own stuff. I am able to kind of slosh over and find some time to do my own work now. Finally.
Okay, so that's what you are.
That's
all right.
who I am.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to delve into this letter. So you wrote this post on Medium, and you wrote it in the form of a letter to the Board of Trustees, Laguna College of Art and Design, which I will call LCAD, LC80,
Yes.
LCAD?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's just start reading. After the events of the past month, I've reached a point where the thought of further dealings with LCAD disgusts me. So I'm writing this letter not as a plea, but as a long, relieved look in the rearview mirror. It's also a next step. I will certainly share this letter as widely as possible, having already responded to a reporter from the Times Orange County. So actually, you did talk to several people from the press. Someone reached out to you, and someone else. You were on an LA radio station too, weren't you? Talking about this story.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Okay.
a radio show, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, so I did get some. Yeah, I got some airtime, and and the article as well,
And some print time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So to continue, my experience at LCAD was basically this. Spring classes were going along with the usual energy and harmony when COVID-19 hit the campus like a bomb. Suddenly, we were teaching via Zoom from our homes instead of in person. The disruption was considerable, so as the weeks went on, you, the board, kept us informed of every step you were taking to keep the classes as normal as possible for the fall term. The emails flew so frequently that I came to expect each of them to be related to the virus and its complications, so when another dropped in with instructions for a Zoom meeting, I barely read the title, accountability something, and logged in at the appointed hour to get the plan for virus teaching in the fall. It was clear from the start that something terrible had happened, and this meeting had nothing to do with COVID-19. The president of the college was there, the chief operating officer, various administrators, and more. People's faces were anxious. A Black American teacher, okay, now I'm not going to name the person, I'm going to call her Keisha, Keisha, and I'm going to use that name because it is the same pseudonym that another person recently gave to someone who completely turned his class. This was, it's an interesting article. It's by another professor who got canceled, a really liberal Black professor who was teaching SJW studies, and he got canceled by his teacher's assistant. He called her Keisha. Got canceled by her. This guy was as far left as you could go, and he managed to get him. He got canceled. So anyway, okay. So a Black American teacher.
She said they're eating their own now.
Oh yeah. Okay, so a Black American teacher, Keisha, was holding back tears. When enough people had logged in, the host began to speak in a grave tone. By the way, this is great writing. Host began to speak in a grave tone. A staffer from the college had posted a message of support for the Black Lives Matter movement on LCAD's Instagram page and inadvertently put a hashtag on it that, in her words, in Keisha's words, was so awful that she could not bear to repeat it. The post itself, in support of BLM, was beside the point. The college's social media community was loudly testifying to serious emotional damage over the hashtag, so serious that alumni were bewailing their history with such an institution and declaring that they could not recommend it to potential students anymore. The administration was worried about LCAD's survival. The floor was given to Keisha, and she spent the next hour accusing the college of systemic racism, eventually expanding her remarks to America as a whole. Offering no specific examples, she talked about white privilege, and she stated out loud, as we all sat listening, that she had no voice.
Nope.
At one point, she brought our attention to a poster of MLK Jr. behind her on a wall. She quoted his much-admired words, "People should be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Things have to change," she said. Something has to be done. And what might that be? "We needed to immediately start judging people by the color of their skin," she explained. Scholarships, student admissions, faculty and staff hiring practices all had to be based on race in order to overcome racism. Add to that another round of sensitivity training for good measure. The meeting left me irritated. At a minimum, Keisha's Orwellian absurdities are an affront to the mind and conscience of anyone who, like me, aspires to reasonable moral thinking. Worse, I was being implicated as an agent of racial oppression, specifically of depriving the very voluble Keisha of a voice by virtue of being born white. I pondered whether to respond and ultimately decided it was time to exercise my own voice. I put my thoughts into an email and sent it to the office and Keisha with a request to forward it to the other Zoom attendees. In my email, I asked for specifics on the change Keisha was demanding, and I defended the college. Quote, "LCAD is a functioning, thriving school where students are being trained to succeed in a fabulous industry. What about this needs to change?" This, in contrast to a Facebook post by Keisha in which she perpetrated the very libel that was threatening LCAD's existence. Quote, "This week I came to the harsh realization that the college I've taught at for 12 years is racist and is reluctant to change." I want to know, okay, just a brief interruption here. How bad was this? If she just realized it after 12 years?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
she was 12 years a slave and she didn't even know it.
As far
These
as
people
I know,
really,
as far as
they must have really sucked at racism. They must have been the worst racists on the block.
They were.
Because
Yes, they were the worst racists on the block because they paid her every payday, just like they did their white teachers and other colored teachers. Well, and she was a very well-respected teacher there.
And she didn't even notice this for 12 entire years. I mean,
apparently not.
She never felt the sting of racism in 12 years. She discovered it after 12 years.
Apparently not.
I want to hop back to your email. I want to read your email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this to everyone who's watching this, just grab yourself a glass of wine like I have and like Betty has. Betty, are you drinking red?
Yes, I am. Of course I'm drinking red.
Okay, well, I'm drinking white. Okay, cheers. Okay, so everyone get your favorite beverage, and I'm going to proceed to read Betty's letter or email that she wrote. Okay, hello all. Betty Boop here.
Wait. Let me just say.
Yes. Uh-huh.
This was in the middle. This is probably about 2:00 in the morning that I wrote this thing. There are a very few things that I would change, but it was just dashed off in some kind of an emotional, I was angry and I dashed this thing off and I tried to be as clear as possible And not, I didn't want to be angry in this thing, although I was irritated. I was irritated by this whole event. I had no idea how far this thing was going to go. I was just responding and just, like I say, using my own voice. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Hello, all. Betty Boop here. I teach visual development for animation at LCAD and would like to comment on the accountability Zoom meeting. I don't have the attendee list, so if anyone wants to forward this around, that's fine with me. First, I saw neither the infamous post nor the video spoken of. Friends, I have no idea what this was, a response to the post, question mark. So, didn't have a clue about what had happened. For some reason...
No, nothing.
Yeah, okay, so you went to this meeting with no idea what was going to unfold.
I was absolutely sure that it was something to do with COVID and how we were going to teach in the fall. Because this was when COVID first hit, and we, that the semester that I was there, halfway through, we got, we started teaching from home via Zoom. And anyway, yeah, I had no idea. I thought it was something to do with COVID.
Right. In fact, that's what it says here. For some reason, silly me had the vague idea this meeting was going to be about how we would move forward in the fall regarding classroom seating, et cetera, in a C-19 world, COVID-19. So what I got was unexpected. I can glean that some guy accidentally put an offensive hashtag on an official LCAD Instagram post and all hell broke loose. Being something of a naive outsider, my first thought was, couldn't people understand it was a mistake and move on? In fact, I believe it would later come to be found out that it was just a fat fingering, that something auto-completed or something. And
I think so. I mean, I honestly, I don't know, but I can only assume that happened because you don't, I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure. I'm absolutely sure of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So clearly the answer to that was a firm no, so I would like to offer some observations and suggestions in a spirit of understanding. I addressed my reply to the people who spoke out today and wrote comments in the chat. The divide in our, so here you go. The divide in our culture today is split down the right-left ideological divide rather than black-white or any other physical characteristics such as gender or mobility or age. So, full disclosure right up front, I am a conservative white gal and a cisgendered Christian one at that. Okay, I'm all of these things except for one. Now, before you start wishing me into the cornfield or consider me hopelessly lost, you should know, if it matters, that I come from your side. Voted Dem most of my life, donated to liberal causes, etc. But for many reasons, I did a slow U-turn and ended up over here, much to my surprise.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Right side views, though, are so grotesquely distorted, mocked, and misunderstood that it is virtually impossible to speak out without subjecting oneself to verbal abuse, both online and in person. So, I know what I'm getting myself into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I
took the chance. And I got to say, too, that one reason, there was a little piece inside me that knew that I thought that there would be an astronomically low chance that something would backfire so badly that I would actually lose my job. But in case that happened, I knew that I could do this. I could stick my neck out like this because I did not need the money. I wasn't counting on that money. It wasn't an income that I needed to, pay rent or pay bills or something like that. I could take that risk and absorb it. If I lost my job, I could absorb it.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if I would have done that if I needed that money. I don't know if I would have done it.
Okay, interesting. Well, we'll get to that. In fact, we'll get to the people who couldn't. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, to continue. I heard a whole lot this sad afternoon about how things have to change, quote unquote, but did not hear any specifics other than demands for diversity training. While that route is a popular one, it really doesn't solve anything. Oh, and by the way, I think someone who actually studies these things, some wokey person, actually did write a column in either the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal that said the same thing. Oh, guys,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, they don't have any effect.
Duh.
I didn't read the whole column because I just stopped at the headline and went, duh. And I don't know whether the reason was that, look, people already learned this in kindergarten. It didn't.
Exactly.
I don't know whether it was that or whether it was that, we're all so racist that it's hopeless. But I think it's the latter, or the former,
Yeah.
the former.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what it is. And in fact, I'm sure that I've also heard that in some places this diversity training actually worsens matters.
It wouldn't surprise me because it makes people hypersensitive.
Hypersensitive and resentful, and it divides
Yeah.
people. Anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, while that route is a popular one, yes, it is, it really doesn't solve anything. Having been force-marched through these programs as a condition of employment in various studios, so you've already had this. I mean, not only
Yes.
in kindergarten and your entire upbringing, but also in various
Yes.
studios. I can tell you they are so mind-numbingly juvenile that their main function among the attendees is as a source of eyeball-rolling exercises. They do not educate. They do not enlighten. They are a waste of time and money and an insult to reasonable, intelligent grown-ups. They exist only as CYA maneuvers for institutions who need to avoid lawsuits. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So I vote thumbs down on this one. But beyond that, I would truly like to know what is meant by things have to change. Okay, and here comes your quote. LCAD is a functioning, thriving school where students are being trained to succeed in a fabulous industry. What about this needs to change? And more importantly, what does it need to change into? These are not rhetorical questions. In fact,
And they were never answered.
Yeah.
They were never answered.
Yeah, and something, that's one of the things I always say to people, this is not a rhetorical question. This is, and that is a statement I wish more people would use in arguments. In fact, that's something I'm going to talk about eventually, is that while conservatives, or whatever I am, conservatarians, or whatever, they're not lefties, have, I mean, there are reasons why they have lousy messages, but they need to learn to debate.
Yes,
They need to learn to debate. And one of the things they need to learn to say is, this is not a rhetorical question. Anyway, okay, so these are not rhetorical questions. And if things need to change refers to society in general, then diversity training at LCAD would indeed be weak tea, yeah. And my take on one other item that came up today, scholarships should be rewarded based on merit, period. MLK Jr. condemned racial quotas, and LCAD shouldn't engage in them. Another thing I heard is that a lot of people feel they don't have a voice. Here's where we can relate. I don't hide my ideology, but do generally keep it to myself, as I don't particularly care for the "you should get raped and die" comments I've received from the tolerant left. I know many voiceless artists in our industry who justifiably fear for their jobs if their personal views were ever to become known. By the way, I knew those people too. I mean, I used to hang with some of those people, and I remember we were at a theater one night, and we were just sort of holding our American flags in front of some stupid anti-American movie, and someone came along and wanted to interview them. And this guy said, "Please, no, really, this guy was a comic who did stand-up, and he says, I can't,
Oh, yeah.
And this was ages ago, but he says, look,
Yeah.
really, I can't be in your, I'll get canceled. I won't get another booking.
Yeah. He could see the writing on the wall.
Yes, and I'm aware that, okay, I won't say too much here, but I'm aware that you are a member of a very, very secret society.
Yes.
In the industry.
Yes.
It's so secret, and it's very hard to get it. I mean, I know that you guys vet and check.
Yes, we vet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So I know, when you say I know many, God, and I swear to God, when I saw one of the names, I thought, are you kidding me? I thought that. I mean, everyone knows. Everyone wants that guy on their project.
Yes.
So, okay, I know many voiceless artists in our industry who justifiably fear for their jobs if their personal views were ever to become known. These people are forced to essentially live a double life because blacklisting is alive and well for those of us who dare use our voices in opposition to Big Brother. I speak from experience. You feel you don't have a voice? Me too.
Yeah, she didn't like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They like that. That Me Too. That Me Too really.
Like
that triggered them. Saying Me Too triggered the hell out of them.
I was thinking of saying Me Too, sister, but I ended up with Me Too. I didn't want to get too pointed with it. I just, Me Too covered it, well enough.
Here we go. Okay, this is the last page. There was a suggestion today that groups be formed at the school for people who feel aggrieved. Oh yeah, great. Yeah. I'm all for kindred spirits getting together and would love to. Something. I think those groups should each pick a representative, and then the representatives go and they go and they have contests to see who's the most aggrieved.
Oh yeah.
Now I think that's what Larry Elder calls the Victolympics.
Yeah, that's right. Is that what he calls it?
I don't know whether he coined that term
something
or
like
whether
that.
I
It's
did.
something like that. Yeah,
he has Victocrats, and I think there is a Victolympics.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, there was a suggestion today that groups be formed at the school for people who feel aggrieved. I'm all for kindred spirits getting together and would love to see the school promote that. Of course, I won't be holding my breath for the conservative club, much as it is needed, but do support anything that promotes positive and meaningful discussion. In that spirit, I also strongly suggest, in all seriousness, that the school invite young, conservative, African-American speakers to present their point of view. Don't laugh! Most people on the left don't know the first thing about the true heart of a conservative, and when they actually listen, progress is made. Academia is so drenched in violence-leaning ideology that most conservative speakers need bodyguards to speak at major universities. It's a sick, sad situation. Hopefully LCAD wouldn't fall into that hole. But there's much to be learned from taking a deep breath and listening to a sincere, articulate speaker who thinks differently. Hearts and minds can be opened up by hearing ideas that are not what we are taught to expect. If the school is interested, I can refer you to some good sources.
They never consulted me on that.
Oh, I guess not. No. 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 We want black voices who don't have voices, but we don't want those voices. Okay, that's all from me. I have much more to say on this, but we'll stop here. The testimonies we heard today were clearly heartfelt and sincere. I hope my words, though unwelcome to most, can be seen in the same light. Sincerely, Betty. P.S. And while I'm at it, can I suggest we drop entirely the whole masking and social distancing thing for the fall? Everyone is over that now. It's time to swap some germs again. Okay, so that was your letter. Mm-hmm. That was your email. That was the email that you sent.
That was my email.
Yeah, that you sent to the Zoom attendees and Keisha.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sent that out at about 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
And went to bed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so as you said, this was in contrast to a Facebook post by Keisha in which she perpetrated the very libel that was threatening LCAD's existence. So let us go find Keisha's post. Okay, here we are. This is June 9th, 2020. How am I doing? All caps. How am I doing? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, ... This week I came, and here's her quote, "This week I came to the harsh realization that the college I've taught at for 12 years is racist and is reluctant to change."
Yeah. That is such a broad, general statement, which means nothing.
What does it mean that the college is racist?
Yeah,
the college is racist.
Yeah. Who knows?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, okay, go on.
So after I cried, screamed, and poured out my heart and shared my suffering over the phone to the president and the social media manager of the school, I spent over an hour trying to educate my fellow faculty and staff, of whom I think I am the only black faculty member, to the reality of institutionalized racism. How My very being, all caps, in this world is tied to the fact that my ancestors were brought over to this country as commodities. I can't believe she didn't use the word slaves. Oh, well, okay. Dr. MLK's dream is, quote, God, all caps. Okay, I can't scream every time she goes into all caps. Is, okay, all caps, to this day not fulfilled. How the protests that have been happening for the last few weeks are the voice of the oppressed and the suppressed. How about the repressed? How about the impressed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are the only reason I feel empowered. They're the only reason I feel empowered to speak my mind. Oh my gosh, this is the only reason about the microaggressions and the discrimination I've experienced, cloaked in the fabric of political differences.
And she never, not once, explains any of that. She never goes
I would
into
love
that.
to know.
Nobody knows what she's talking about. Nobody knows what she's talking about. Actually, one of the administrators that I talked to afterwards said, nobody knows what she's talking about. We never know.
Okay. How the reason people are screaming and yelling and rioting is because we've had a knee on our necks for too long. All caps again, cannot do this to my voice. Too long, repeat. And to tell my fellow faculty members that all lives matter means nothing if caps, not all caps, but what do you call it? Capitalized. My life. And to tell my fellow faculty members that all lives matter means nothing if my life doesn't matter. To top it off, I received the most insulting letter from Karen the White Fragility Queen.
Hello, I'm raising my hand.
That sounds like a racist slur to me. A racist and sexist slur.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
Doesn't
That sounds
it,
kind of
though?
racist and sexist to me. Okay, to top it off, I received the most insulting letter, which I just read. The most insulting letter from Karen the White Fragility Queen, who had the nerve to write to me about, we've got caps going around here again, her suffering because she didn't get to speak at the meeting.
That is completely twisted. That is totally twisted.
I have received enough funding to grant scholarships to over 24 black artists. I guess white people need not apply. Yellow people need not apply. Brown people need not apply. I am teaching black artists how to reach new levels of extraordinary. And I am supporting them, nurturing them, and guiding them so that they can diversify the animation and illustration industries. I am making a difference. I ask you, how are you making a difference? Okay, there's her.
Yeah, why aren't you all
I guess
being
that's not
perfect like me?
I guess that's not a rhetorical question either. So, all right. So here we go. I'm back to your. We're back to your piece in Medium. In the wake of my email, I took the trouble to inquire with an associate provost about any racist offenses LCAT had perpetrated in the past. Without violating student confidentiality, she cited 2 complaints in her years on the job. Neither involved racism. So there had never been any complaints about racism in her. How many years had she been on that job?
I'm going to say, I know she was there for about at least 5 years.
All right. Okay, so we'll continue. You know what happened next.
Sorry,
yes?
but like I say, she's the one who told me that nobody there knew what this person was talking about. And, those people...
What Keisha was talking about.
Nobody in HR... Nobody in the administration knew what she was talking about, and those people were there for many, many years, like before Keisha even got there. And I might also add at this, just slip this in real quick, LCAD has never, ever, ever had any kind of reputation other than a sterling art school. That's what it did. That's what it was for, and that's what it did. There was nothing in the SJW world to tarnish it. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so you, meaning you, Board of Trustees, you know what happened next. To make a long story short, Keisha received the email and took to Facebook once again to slur me with a demeaning racist stereotype. And this was I think the one that I read just now, the Karen, the white fragility Karen. I responded to her, demanding that she apologize and post my email in full so that readers could judge it for themselves. If Keisha wants to lay down sensitivity rules, she has to play by them. NB, I do not follow Keisha on social media. Her post was brought to my attention by individuals familiar with the circumstances who were able to easily identify me as the target of the slur. A few days later, I was fired. Mine is the third scalp in this sordid episode, after the staffer who posted the pro-BLM Instagram message and the president of the... So in other words, okay, the staffer who fat-fingered the hashtag was fired, and the president of the college was fired.
The president of the college quit.
Okay,
but
quit.
Under stress, under duress.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, okay. So yours is the third scalp in this sordid episode, after the staffer who posted the pro-BLM Instagram message, the pro-BLM Instagram message, and the president of the college. It is probably also the last scalp, as the dissenters on campus, students and teachers alike, many of whom have contacted me in secret, have learned, yet again, that if they want to survive, they must remain mute.
Yep.
This is such a perfect echo of Keisha's earlier declaration that she had no voice.
Yeah, and then
These are the people who have to remain mute. And in fact, you were contacted by some of them, weren't you?
I was contacted by several.
Oh, yeah, many of them contacted me in secret.
Several
yes.
of them. Students, teachers, and administration. All three of them. Not only current students, but students who were entering, who were slated for my class. People who didn't even know me were contacting me. And they all told me there was a huge groundswell of support for me. And without exception, every single one of them asked me to not ever mention that they contacted me. One guy in particular...
Keep me anonymous.
Yeah, keep me anonymous.
Yeah.
One guy in particular was very, very stressed it very much. And he said, my wife is not even... His wife didn't want him to get in touch with me. His wife didn't even want to, because she said, we need your income. So I never said anything to anybody about any of these people.
These are people who have to keep their mouths shut in order to shelter and feed their families.
Yes. They don't have their First Amendment rights. They just don't. They have to keep their mouths shut. They cannot express their own viewpoint for fear of losing their job. And, for them, I'm Exhibit A. I am what happens if you open your mouth and you say something. That letter that I wrote, that first letter that I wrote, was very diplomatic. It was very tactful.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I
thought
clearly
it was.
I was irritated at what happened, but I was expressing my viewpoint in a very, I thought it was very clear. It's just a very clear and unapologetic, but a clear way. And I even wrapped it up by saying, I know that this isn't going to be welcome by most of you people, but maybe you can just take it as in the way it is presented. Just maybe you want to listen to somebody once in a while.
You were fired. I see the college is now implementing numerous remediations. Number 1, an Equity and Inclusion Council, a restorative justice professional, scholarships to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion, a student forum to engage in meaningful, change-driven dialogue, a fine arts exhibition to raise money for BLM organizations, A robust diversity I'm running out of fingers. A robust diversity, inclusivity, and sensitivity training program for staff, faculty, and board of trustee members. And an outreach program to attract a more diverse board membership.
I cannot even, I can't.
That's 7 things. That's 7
That's
things.
7 things that they're spending money on that they could have been buying equipment with, whatever. I mean, they could have been spending that money on their students.
Yeah. So, I said at the opening of this letter that I'm looking back on my brief experience with LCAD in relief. Thanks to its boundless cowardice, I won't have to deal with a single one of these unspeakably dreary, infantilizing, and wasteful endeavors. Another note. I am copying Keisha on this letter in the spirit of openness that is now sorely lacking at LCAD. So you're copying her on this letter. Let's face it, Keisha knows what you are and you know what she is. You both know what you've lost in me and what you've taken to your bosom in her. Until now, no one has had the opportunity or the guts to say this while both of you are in the room. So, fiat lux. Let there be light. Finally, let us recall, what was the ghastly hashtag that started it all? Ah, yes, the all-inclusive, equalizing, diversity-embracing, all lives matter.
That's what did it. That's what kicked off this whole shit show.
Okay, so another thing I want to do, I want to read the email that email that you sent to Keisha, that you copied everyone on, or the no, I guess this was your response to Keisha.
Oh, on Facebook.
Okay.
No, that's right. It wasn't on Facebook. Okay, yeah, read that.
Yeah. Okay. This is the.
I remember.
Yeah,
that.
This is the one where you demanded an apology and. Yeah. Okay. So. Keisha, can't we all just get along? I feel like I'm getting dragged into a cat fight, and I really hate it. I recently saw a Facebook post of yours that derisively referred to me with a racial profiling, ethnic slurring, and a wild exaggeration regarding a small portion of the email I sent to the attendees of the Zoom meeting. Anyone reading your post who also read that email could figure out I was the writer, and it's a certainty that many of your followers, being faculty and staff, did. My first thought was to chuckle and let you have your snark, but then I reconsidered. If you want to lay down sensitivity rules, you have to play by them. The suffering, as you call it, of which I spoke in my email, was clearly not that I didn't get to speak at the meeting. Keisha, I didn't even try to, and you know it. I purposely didn't speak up out of respect for the gravity of the moment and waited until afterwards to put my thoughts into words. Perhaps you were too blinded by rage at the time and didn't read it closely, so to clarify, my point is that whenever anyone crosses the left, no matter the reason, that person runs the risk of becoming the target of leftist ire, which too often includes losing their job. 2 scalps have been taken so far at LCAD. So far, you hadn't been fired yet. 2 scalps have been taken so far at LCAD. You truly have no idea the extent of the self-censoring that goes on in my ranks. She has no idea. She has no idea of how many people are biting their tongues.
No, she doesn't know. No, honestly, she does not know. None of them do. They do not know. They live in concrete bunkers. Anyway, go ahead.
And those ranks are larger than you know. You might want to ask yourself how I became aware of your post in the first place. And this is where someone brought your attention to it because they recognized you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. There
are tons of wonderful people who stay in the conservative closet out of justifiable fear that they too will lose their jobs. Not to mention the public shaming that goes on. These people have families to feed and genuinely can't afford to exercise their First Amendment rights. That, Keisha, is the voice I was talking about. The voice that can never be heard. And yes, it takes nerve to say these things. Who's being fragile again? So, I can't just let this go. Facebook is a public forum. I want the following pinned to the top of your Facebook page for 48 hours. A public apology, a promise to never use racial slurs again on anyone, and the subject email in full. Slap some moth-eaten caveat on it. People can make up their own minds as to how insulting it is. Yeah, she called it insulting. Obviously,
Yes.
Obviously, I don't care that people know I'm conservative, and I don't care if you rip me to pieces in private messages. You need to understand that you engaged in exactly the kind of behavior you say you want to abolish. And you say, and you need to pay the price. Well, sorry, and you need to pay the price. Fortunately, I've already been to sensitivity camp, so I know not to do such silly things.
You know, actually, listening to that email, I can't believe how well I controlled myself. She ranted for an hour. That I dropped out after an hour. I didn't wait for the whole thing. I just couldn't. I'd had enough of it after an hour. I have no idea how long they went on.
After an hour. Oh my God.
I have no idea how long they went on after that. But yeah, after about an hour, I just, left the Zoom meeting, and I'm sure she was still ranting. And she had plenty of support.
Uh-huh.
Oh, plenty of support.
Oh, I've noticed. In fact, I've noticed online, I've looked at her posts and things, and yeah, she does have. And it's so funny, the support, though. It's a good thing that Betty was fired. Clearly, students of color would not be safe in her class.
Yeah, not be safe. Yeah, right. They wouldn't be safe. I was already, before I got this, before I lost my job, I was already trying to figure out what would be the safest place for me to park in the parking lot. Where is the closest camera that I could be on camera from the time I got out of my car to the time I got into the classroom. I mean, because I did get some more of those emails.
Oh, God.
About how, I'm the problem and I need to get raped and die.
Oh, my God.
Blah, blah,
oh, my
blah.
God.
Yeah.
I'm sure that your numerous colleagues of color over the years were similarly endangered by your participation in various projects. It's a wonder those people are even alive now.
Yeah.
So, well, this whole thing did have a slightly interesting coda. Now, Keisha sued for... I don't know. She started up some class action suit that was completely unrelated to this. It was something about back pay, whatever. And
well, first of all, Keisha only lasted one more semester.
yes.
So I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, she only lasted one more semester.
Uh-huh.
And then apparently she got really busy and started digging into how she could get the school.
Uh-huh.
And she got the school by finding some tiny little loophole somewhere in the fine print. So she got them. She got them on a class action lawsuit. And yeah, go ahead, continue.
Well, you know what kind of amuses me already is that she didn't get them for racism. She didn't get them...
No, she didn't. No.
She didn't get them for... for discrimination or any of the thousands of microaggressions that she had borne, that she had endured, that she had suffered. That's it, suffered.
Suffered, yeah. Mm-hmm.
At their racist institution. So she got some loophole.
Yeah.
So she actually created a class action lawsuit, which she succeeded in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the college lost $850,000 on this lawsuit. That is what they paid for caving to her. If they had stood up to her, this would have never happened. If they had just stood their ground, there was not one vertebrae among those 10 board members to be found. Not one. They all caved.
Well, do you know if they...
And especially that...
Did they even fight this lawsuit? It was a technicality, you say.
Oh, yes, they fought. They fought the
it.
lawsuit.
Okay, well, so
yes,
they didn't... So they didn't cave to the lawsuit.
Well, when it comes to money... Yeah, when it comes to money, we're talking a whole different planet. Yeah, so when it comes to money. But they lost. And
guess who was one of the beneficiaries
had...
of the settlement?
Why, it could have been moi.
Betty Boop!
Karen the White Fragility.
Betty Boop came in for a
Betty
little...
Boop.
And what is Betty Boop going to do with her loot?
Betty Boop is going to donate it to the Donald Trump re-election campaign. And Betty Boop is going to notify Keisha and thank her tremendously for that extra little bit of glimmer in my life.
All right.
You know what? I know this sounds weird. I would love to sit down and just have a cup of coffee with her someday. I would love to do that and just pick her brain.
I know.
I would love to do that.
That is the sort of thing you want to do.
She would not be able to do it. I would be able to do that.
Listen.
I would love to pick her brain. Here's another thing. She is a light-skinned black person. Somewhere along the line, some cracker got into her blood. Yeah. And she is married to a white guy. And they have mixed-race children. So,
she's married to one of the slave drivers? She's married to Simon of Legree?
Yes, she is. And her children are apparently half oppressed and half privileged.
Well, not privileged. Oppressors.
One thing, though, we have to keep in mind, though, is that never among all of her myriad, all of her satellites, her huddled masses at her feet, none of them ever brought a lawsuit against the college for racism. Not one of them.
Discrimination.
And
discrimination. Yeah.
not only that, but Keisha herself never said to them, oh, you have a racist event that happened at this school? Let's go to this lawyer over here and sue their pants off because you've got a case. And you can buy a condo, a one-bedroom condo in Laguna Beach with the money that you're going to get from this. Keisha didn't do that. Instead, Keisha took it to social media and watched her own profile rise.
Yes.
That's what Keisha did for those people.
Yeah.
Nothing. Zip.
So I get the whole thing about wanting to have coffee with her because I also have wanted to sit down. In fact, I did sit down once with someone and tried. And, the trouble is when you try to sit down and have coffee with them, they storm off. That happened to me. But yes. I mean, what you want to do is sit down with them and just settle 1 point at a time. And like 1 point for Keisha. Please name one microaggression. Today's topic, which may last 5 cups of coffee, just name one microaggression.
Yeah. And the thing about microaggressions that these people never seem to realize is that they are looking for microaggressions.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a reason they are looking for microaggressions.
Yes.
Because there are no macroaggressions anymore. They just don't exist. And the other thing, too, is that microaggressions are a dime a dozen. You can turn any social situation into a microaggression. You can just turn anything.
The person who wrote the long article that I read in which he, the person who wrote the article about the Keisha talked about, being accused of microaggressions in his body language. In his body language. Yeah.
Oh, yes, one of the because
about the macroaggressions, as like you say, there are no macroaggressions. As people have often said, the demand for racism exceeds the supply right now.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Sorry, we
Exactly.
can't give you a mic.
There was
macroaggression
another.
today.
Here's another example. During that Zoom meeting, I just remembered this. There was one person one of her supporters, who piped up, basically apologizing for the fact that he could pass as white, and that he could see. He was talking about how when you walk up to somebody and you can just tell that they're looking at you because you're black or you're of color, whatever it was that it was.
Yeah, that look. I think it's the white look. It's the white gaze. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't give anyone any ideas, but that no one ever watches this channel anyway.
Yeah.
But if they do, that's the takeaway. We were talking about the industry of illustration and animation. I keep on looking down at my microphone here. Now, do you think that there really is a dearth of people of color, or black people in particular, or people of color in illustration and animation?
This is completely unscientific, utterly, totally unscientific. But I know so many black people in this industry, a ton of them, and I just don't see it. And I also one of the as I told you earlier, one of the reasons that I was a get for LCAT is because I'm a woman. Now, for about, I don't know, for 20 years that I know of, 25 years that I know of, the entire industry, all of these studios have been trying like hell to get women into the ranks of animators, because animation really is dominated by men.
Yeah.
So that's another whole, that is another whole set of, there's another whole circumstance that there is to deal with. But Keisha had nothing to say about that. She had nothing to say about that, which is a far more glaring.
Yes.
That is truly, it is far more glaring.
That's a much more glaring
than any kind of lack.
A much more glaring imbalance than the black-white one.
Yes, than any lack of black faces around.
I'm also curious, did you ever get a sense that your black colleagues felt aggrieved or singled out, or did you? No.
Never. The older ones were very, very understanding about the situation as it was in the 50s and say in the 50s, 40s and 50s. They understood. Right. They had an understanding. They had an understanding about what, the prevailing winds at the time. And they were very grateful that they were not discriminated against, at Disney, or in the industry. Let's say that they were very grateful that they passed right through that, and they were respected and admired, and given all the. The thing is, they weren't treated as if they were black. They were just treated as if they were talented artists, and. I don't know. Keisha was treated as if she was a talented artist, which she is. And apparently she was a good teacher as well. But man, her ideology really got in the way of everything. She just tripped all over it. And it destroyed...
It's so sad because, there it all was. Collegiality, a shared mission.
Yes.
And also just a wonderful institution. We're talking about artistry and education. Two such wonderful things. It was all there.
Yes. And also...
And she had to crush it.
She
had to trash it.
Yeah, she had to crush it. She had to trash it. Here's another thing. When you... And this is a little bit of a stereotype, but it's actually true. Artists in general are apolitical. They just want to paint pretty pictures. They just want to do animation. They just want to get into their art, and a lot of them are a a lot of them are introverts. Most of them, I would say, are introverts. You sit at your desk and you do your art, and everything is fine. Everybody's happy. So most of them are apolitical. Now, of course, the ones that are political, for the most part, are on the left, and the ones on the right have to shut up.
Yeah.
So that the atmosphere is, if anything, when it comes to politics, it's a leftist atmosphere. But for the most part, the people themselves couldn't care less. They just want to do art.
In fact, I remember you once told me that you were contacted by some reporter from the LA Times who was doing a long piece on women in animation. And this was back when you were voting Democrat. This was back when you were... It was back then, and they contacted you, and they were evidently trying to build up a story about how women were oppressed and repressed.
Yes.
Now, can you remember what that was?
So that was the LA Times had a Sunday paper called Calendar. And it was going to be it was the front page. It was the front page. It was the main article in Calendar that week, and they contacted the company. They contacted Disney and said, "Give us 5 or so of your top women talent, and we want to talk to them about their experience at Disney and about how they feel about being women at Disney." I told this guy, I gave him my honest experience at Disney was that I had absolutely zero resistance because I was female. I'm telling you, this is true. The only incident that I could even possibly think of at Disney when I was quote unquote discriminated against was when I was playing softball and I was playing second base. This was an inter-company league. I was on first base. The shortstop got the ball and would not throw it to me. He wouldn't throw it to me. He tried to run. There was a runner coming right at second, and I kept on saying, and I had my foot on the baseline saying, "Just throw it, throw it, throw it." He had no idea. It was the first time I played with him. He did not know that I don't,
You don't mess around in softball.
I don't run.
Yeah,
like a boy.
You've been playing softball for decades. I know. Yeah.
Yes. I'm a natural athlete. He didn't know that anyway, so he wouldn't throw the ball to me. So he tried to run it in, and of course the runner was safe. He didn't beat the runner.
Hey, by the way, did that ever get resolved? Did that ever, did that guy ever find out that you're a freaking natural athlete who could have been in the Olympics?
Oh, yes, he got that. Yeah, because I played with that team for a long time.
Well, I remember also you saying something about how, look, I mean, we were all recruited at a certain...
Yes. So, yes.
Some point,
Yeah, they were hiring for The Little Mermaid. And they hired, they just had to hire more people. And they hired guys and they hired gals. And all of us rose at the same time. We all rode that wave. We all became department heads and art directors and things like that. The ones that wanted to anyway, and the ones that had the aptitude. And it wasn't that I was a woman who beat the odds. It's just that I was a woman who had some sort of ability to deal with people because, I could deal with egos as well. So, and I was willing to do that. So, yeah. And
so, okay, all right. So you were one of a group of people who just rose because you all came in at the same level, and then you rose accordingly. Okay,
we were all fairly young, and we all had room to grow at the company, and we took those opportunities when we could find them. It wasn't and it was the guys and the girls both. I cannot even begin to tell you the respect that I was treated with. by everybody. Everybody, you know, I mean, just we all respected each other. No, it was a situation where we respected each other, and people were they were just into their art. Like I say, it was just like it was passion.
And this was a great disappointment to the LA Times reporter.
It was. I did not appear in that article. Only the women. I was the only woman who disappointed the poor guy, and the others had their say about what it was like. About what it was like to be so repressed in the industry. There was absolutely none.
Narrative.
There was none.
And I know that was back when you were, that was before you made your slow U-turn.
That could be. I think it was while I was in the
middle.
It was before I had completed my slow U-turn. Yeah, I had not yet completed the U-turn. In fact,
that sort of thing. What was that? Did something like that contribute to your slow U-turn? Something like that.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. The thing is, I didn't even know. I think that I didn't really understand I was in a U-turn until I was pretty much done with it. Like all of a sudden, it was a little bit of a eye opener. It was a little bit of a whack on the side of the head. Oh yeah, I don't think those things. I don't believe those things anymore. But yeah, you're right. That was before I finished my U-turn. Now that I think about it.
Oh, by the way, okay, when I told you I wanted to talk about this with you, you kind of said, "Oh God, please, no, God, no."
I just didn't want to regurgitate.
I know, relive all this, but I'll tell you something. Just coincidentally, I went to a Thanksgiving dinner this past year, 2022, and and there at the party, I mean, it was like a group of people, and one of the people there was someone who had also been canceled.
Oh.
And I listened to his story, and it was just mind-numbingly, just the ironies and in fact, I think I told you about this guy, and he's well known. It's a well-known case, and you knew who he was. I was describing the guy, and you knew who he was.
I remember him, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he was another case who hit the news. And when I was listening to his story, I was saying, "Oh my God, you've got to write a book. You've got to write about this." And he says, "I just can't." He says, "Look, I've lived it. I mean, if I write a book, it won't be for 10 years." Yeah. Well, I mean, we all know. I mean, he was doing so many good things, and he got canceled.
Yes, he was a good...
So many good things. I mean, I found out the whole backstory. I found out about his whole personal history in the course of that evening, and the idea that the notion that this guy got canceled for
that was a crime.
For this, it was a crime. It was a crime. You know what? It was a crime against people of color.
It was. It was. My heart breaks for him.
Oh, my heart breaks for him too, because he was so into his vocation.
He really was.
That guy had sacrificed. Yes. I mean, that guy had put in the hours. That guy had he had walked the walk.